Earlier this morning, I saw a post from the most prestigious party in the universe, the Green Party in Germany. A party that everyone else should aspire to be like. A party filled with actual human beings, filled with compassion and wisdom. And they said that they want to ban Twitter. They want to ban TikTok. They want to ban the AFD. They want to ban everything because that is the role of a politician. If something exists out there in the world without the knowledge of the Green Party, then it exists without its consent. And they can use the German taxpayer money in order to crack down with the power of fascismus and prevent other adults from seeing it because the Green Party are above the adults. They are above other human beings. They are the only ones that are capable of seeing dangerous information without being affected. And so Christianity on Twitter has finally convinced me there is such a thing as objective morality, and it must be in the hands of the German government because they are the only ones capable of dictating right from wrong. If you disagree with them, you must be wrong. And so it happened that J.D. Vance came up with a historic speech, and he did the unthinkable. He disagreed with the German party. And the German party, which used to have a big fat cock, a massive erection, they realized that they're quite impotent when it comes to J.D. Vance. They realized, oh, we can't terminate his YouTube channel. Holy shit, what do we do now? Can we debank him? No, we can't debank him. Can we send the strong police officers to enforce the rule of Germany by arresting him at 8 a.m. in the morning? No, they can't do that either. So now they're coping, and now they're seething, and now they're... All jokes aside, though, I do think that the J.D. Vance speech is going to be historic in the sense that recordings of it are going to be shared online probably 30 or 40 years from now. Maybe when America loses its way, people are going to show back in the past, look what vice president you had, you know, like championing these awful things like human rights, saying that in a democracy people should be encouraged to talk with each other without a member of the Grün present. And that people should be able to have a free press. And that doesn't just mean like the newspapers that are the multi-million-dollar corporate entities with money from the government and US aid. No, it should be like actual human beings on the ground going on social media, communicating and sharing news articles with each other, including misinformation, including lies, including falsehoods, because if you want a democracy, then you have to believe that in the end, truth prevails. Like there needs to be smart people on both sides, and they need to be able to debunk the misinformation. This is how people actually lead their lives, right? Like you go out and you get into various business contracts and dealings, and you buy cars and you get student debt and all that shit. And you have to differentiate if the car salesman is lying to you or is telling you the truth. Like you need to promote critical thinking if you actually care about the public knowing truth from fiction. The way that they're currently doing it with fact checkers, and it's like, oh, the government knows better. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm from Eastern Europe, and here we believe that every single politician is corrupt. Like, yes, all of them are corrupt. So, like, the truth cannot possibly come from the politicians. It can come from the people. But anyway, right, like, again, the German point of view, and it seems that this is also the European Union's point of view, is that harmful speech needs to be banned. And J.D. Vance, which came in and said that the European Union is facing a crisis, that we're doing poorly economically, we're doing poorly morally, we're doing poorly in the military department, and we're doing poorly with free speech. The European Union said, well, we don't have free speech. Well, J.D. Vance's speech is harmful and it should be banned. They didn't actually say it should be banned, but it's heavily implied, right? And so, what I am astonished is not in what J.D. Vance said. Again, I have no control over J.D. Vance. I'm a European citizen. Like, I don't vote in the American elections. And so whining, complaining, and bitching at J.D. Vance does absolutely no good. But what I can do is to whine, bitch, and complain at my leaders and representatives and ask, why is there not a single person capable in the entire fucking European Union apparatus in order to give a proper response to the American vice president? Because this is what's concerning. Like, in a world, and it does seem we're heading to that world, where everyone looks for their own interests, and partnerships and alliances are about what you can contribute, not what just you can receive, then I want strong leaders to look after the interests of my own. And I couldn't find a single one that gave a good response to J.D. Vance. And the response is very simple to give. What someone from the European Union should have done, maybe even Macron or Schultz or any of these people, they should have told Vance, it's like, oh, so you're saying that if we want America's military aid, then we should have American values. Like, that's interesting. So what are American values? Well, apparently J.D. Vance says that free speech is an American value. Well, that's good to know, because up until now, the American value was diversity, inclusivity, and equity. And we believe that as partners of the United States, we did our utmost best in order to implement those values that, as you may know, may not always go hand in hand with free speech. And I understand the situation in America. I understand the fact that there's a new administration and now the culture is shifting. Like, we get that. But how is it fair to shame us for the stuff that we did back then when the Americans wanted us to implement it? Are we going to be shamed in the future 4 years from now when a new administration takes hold that we actually champion free speech? I mean, we don't mind reorganizing and reassessing our entire society based on the whims of whatever it is in the American culture. But, like, give us a heads up if you can. Tell us a little bit in advance. It's like, all right, well, we're now for free speech, so we're going to promote that. Oh, now we're not for free speech. Now we're for safe spaces and safetyism. Please make sure you get that. Because if you look at what actually happened in Europe, you can even bring the U.S. aid, right, into question. And it's like, well, isn't this a controversy? So, like, let me understand. Like, American taxpayer money goes funded through NGOs, goes into European Union contracts, pressures the EU in order to implement a lot of these policies, changes our cultures by hiring an army of journalists and influencers that promote diversity, inclusivity, and equity. And then when the culture changes, now America comes and wiggles its finger. Now, again, I'm not saying that this speech is 100% true and that there is a gray area and the European Union didn't embrace itself diversity, inclusivity, and equity, probably even exported some to the United States. But the reality is, like, this is the type of speech that you would expect from a leader that tries to represent the interests of Europe. This is the type of speech that you would expect from a statesman that displays strength. It doesn't have to be 100% true, but it has to sound good. It has to be something that you can package and you can sell to the public so that you can show, like, hey, look, you can't talk down to us like that when you're also part of the problem. And by you, again, like, not his particular administration. But if you look at the Joe Biden's administration, a lot of the censorship happened with the consent and the approval of the Democrats. In fact, most of the censorship in Europe, like the free speech, has died in Europe once Trump got elected in 2016. The Democrats used their entire apparatus in order to push for censorship on social media. And if you want to know where the biggest censorship on social media comes from, is during the pandemic. And it was also pushed by the Biden administration. And so my point is that Europe has indeed followed the American values. We have done everything that America has asked. When it asked for diversity, inclusivity, and equity, we did that. When it has asked for Germany and other countries to forego their economic interests and actually go to war with Russia, we did that. So I understand why a lot of European countries are salty now after the German pipeline was bombed. And after now they're told, well, you're not invited to the peace deal. And we're going to take all the rare earth minerals and, you know, everything that you gave, like all the aid that you've given is not going to be paid back. And you're going to have to send your troops over there in order to be in the demilitarized zone. Like, I get where the controversy comes from. I get why European countries are upset. Again, life is cruel. Life is unfair. If you are a country that doesn't have a strong military, if you don't have a strong manufacturing system, if you don't have a strong economy, if you can't produce soft power through culture, movies, music, cartoons, in order to influence people so that they care about you, well, then you're going to have other nations dictate stuff to you. Like, that's the way of the world. But what you need is, like, strong leaders in order to try to articulate that in a way that it makes you sympathetic. This is why J.D. Vance would never go to China and have a similar speech. It's because the Chinese rhetoric would be swift and immediately debunk his speech. This is what happened if you would go to Russia and have the same speech. The Russian government would immediately have some of its top thinkers in order to analyze the speech and figure out rebuttal points. Whether they're true or not, it doesn't matter, but at least you look like a presentable statesman. In the case of the European Union, all we have to do is nagging and complaining. Oh, the Americans are so bad. Oh, they're immoral. Oh, they can't do this. It's not fair. It's not, oh, man. That's not statesmanship. That doesn't offer me any confidence that in the future dealings with the United States that our politicians even know what the fuck they're doing. If this is the way you approach an individual from a powerful nation that is chastising you and all you're doing is whining, you're not inspiring a lot of confidence. And unfortunately, in the international scale, if you appear weak, you invite aggression. And the European Union looks incredibly weak right now on every single level. Economically, manufacturing capabilities, the quality of politicians, the alliances. Like, okay, we don't like Russia. I don't like them either. I can't fault the EU for that take. Russian people individually are some of the nicest people I've met. Like, if you want a party with a Russian. But when Russian people get together and they form a government, it's horrible if you're outside their borders. It's a nightmare. This is why, like, every single nation next to Russia wants to get into NATO. There's a historical reason for that. And so, I can understand why the EU doesn't like Russia. It's like, yeah, it has cheap gas, but it comes with strings attached. So I get that, But they don't like China either. Like, why don't we like China? Human rights violations. Oh, okay, so our morality doesn't allow us to work with China. Good. Okay, so we don't like Russia, we don't like China, but now we don't like America either. Why don't we like America? They're talking down to us. So who the fuck do we like? Because geopolitically, it seems like we're a grumpy woman with big tits that has extremely high standards, but nothing much to offer. Like, the manufacturing capability is down. We don't have a military. We don't even have, like, a culture. Like, there is those, like, they promote this idea of the European culture. How many Polish do you think are willing to sacrifice themselves for the EU flag? How many Eastern Europeans do you think would sacrifice themselves for the EU flag? Now, Polish people will sacrifice themselves for the Polish flag. Romanians will sacrifice themselves in a conflict for the Romanian flag. But I guarantee to you, if there was like a major conflict in Europe, especially some shit that Germany started, like, let's hypothetically even say a conflict between the US and the European Union. How many people do you think would flee if they have the opportunity? Meanwhile, if there was a problem in Poland, I guarantee to you there would be planes from all over Europe flying back to Poland in order to defend their home nation. And so the European Union doesn't even have like a culture that would get people to be pro-EU in the sense where people are pro-United States. Right? Like, you have a person from Illinois, he considers himself American first and foremost. Here in the European Union, you don't have people in Eastern Europe considering themselves, oh, I'm a European. No, they consider themselves, I'm a Hungarian, I'm a Polish person, I'm a Romanian. That's the mentality here. And so, like, the arrogance from the leaders is not justifiable. And the fact that we don't have strong statesmen in order to deal with a person like J.D. Vance, in order to know how to make a deal with the Trump administration, is shocking to me. And it's a good wake-up call. Anyway, I will see you guys in the comment section. Don't forget to check the pinned comment. It's the way you can support my channel and also find me on other places. And I'll see you later. Take care.